Yes, that Bing Crosby.
Just what you've been waiting for. Movies, TV, music, and more. Follow, subscribe, stay up to date. Episodes drop every other Monday. It's the Matt, watch that. It's the Matt, watch that. It's the Matt, watch that podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Matt Watch That podcast, the place for reviews, rants, and randomness. I'm your host, Matt Seroski, filmmaker, film fan. Each episode, I'm going to watch a movie or TV pilot that I probably should have seen but never got around to. It could be a recent favorite, critic's choice, or cult classic. To join in on the conversation, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed, or suggestions as to what I should see next, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Before we start, now that we've reached the month of October, we'll be celebrating Halloween all month long on the Matt Watch That podcast. So buckle in. I'll be watching and reviewing horror movies, and all my playback videos and recommendations will be related to something spooky. This year, I decided to be somewhat thematic, and on this episode, we're going to focus on creepy animals. It's odd that we've endured slasher killers like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, and Jason, but there's something more unsettling when animals attack. When I was a kid, I remember there was a book series called Bunnicula about a vampire bunny. While it was pretty harmless, the covers featured a white rabbit with red eyes, which was kind of off-putting. I'm surprised they were allowed in those scholastic book fairs. So let's talk about the best cinematic animals. First, we have Cujo. Based on the Stephen King novel, the film revolves around a rabid dog who terrorizes a woman, Scream Queen Dee Wallace, and her son, who's the boss's Danny Pintaro, who are trapped inside of a car. Then there was Bats. Now, this film featured genetically modified bats that terrorize a small town. They're creepy enough as is. We don't need them modified. Then we have Arachnophobia. Even if you have only a small modicum of fear of the creepy crawlers, this tale of an aggressive, venomous South American spider, which breeds and infests a small California town, it will have you double-checking all the small corners in your house. Then we have one of my favorites, Them. Classic science fiction horror film. It revolves around giant ants wreaking havoc. The next two also fall under my other thematic pick this season, Creepy Kids. You have The Omen, which everyone remembers for Damien, but one of the most memorable scenes in the 1976 classic was the dog attack in the cemetery. And the other is Pet Sematary, another Stephen King adaptation. This time it involves a burial ground that brings pets back to life, as well as a creepy kid. And none of them are exactly in the best condition. Then we have lighthearted fare with Lake Placid. The film features a gigantic man-eating crocodile lurking in a remote lake, and Betty White. And Anaconda. A giant killer anaconda wreaks havoc on a documentary crew in the Amazon jungle, falls under the so bad it's good heading. But then we have to bring it back to the classics. The Birds, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. We're not sure why these birds go nuts, but they start attacking everyone in this small town. And then, of course, Jaws, the Spielberg classic where a great white shark terrorizes a beach town. But in this episode, we're focused on rats. What are some of your favorite Animals Gone Wild horror films? Hit me up on social media using the hashtag MattWatchThat. On to the main attraction. Each review will end with a ranking out of 5 stars. 1 star is skip it. 2 stars, watch at your own risk, 3 stars, standard fare, 4 stars, worth checking out, and 5 stars, must see. Now, if I give a title 5 stars, it doesn't mean I'm comparing it to Casablanca, Jaws, or Seinfeld. I rank titles based on other movies or TV series in that genre and at that time period. On this episode of the podcast, I'll be reviewing Willard from 1971. It was directed by Daniel Mann, who helmed Broadway adaptation Come Back Little Sheba, biographical drama I'll Cry Tomorrow, Political satire, The Tea House of the August Moon. Romance, Butterfield 8, with the B and the U capitalized for some reason. And spy spoof, Our Man Flint. He directed 7 different actors to Oscar-nominated performances, with Shirley Booth, Elizabeth Taylor, and Anna Magnani ultimately winning. He was the father-in-law of Harold Ramis, who married his daughter Erica. The screenplay was written by Gilbert Ratson, who scribed episodes of Adventure, The Blue Angels, crime drama, Naked City, medical drama, Ben Casey, secret agent adventure, I Spy, and family drama, Gentle Ben. He created the Western television series The Wild Wild West, which was adapted into a theatrical film starring Will Smith and Kevin Kline. Willard was based on the novel Ratman's Notebooks by Stephen Gilbert. It stars Bruce Davison as the titular character. He grew up in Philadelphia and attended Penn State, majoring in art. He went to an audition with a friend and caught the acting bug, and enrolled in the acting program at New York University. He made his Broadway debut in Tiger at the Gates in 1968, and feature film debut the next year in the coming-of-age drama Last Summer, with Barbara Hershey and Richard Thomas. His next major roles were as Lieutenant Garnet DeBuin in the western Ulzana's Raid, Patrick in the Lucille Ball-led musical Mame, and Leroy in black comedy Mother, Jugs, and Speed. He would appear in episodes of television series crime dramas Policewoman and Lou Grant, and anthology horror Tales from the Dark Side. He was cast as George in the spin-off series Harry and the Hendersons, which he appeared in 3 seasons, 72 episodes from 1991 to 1993. He also directed 3 episodes. He would have supporting roles in dramedy 6 Degrees of Separation, drama The Cure, thriller Apt Pupil, historical drama The Crucible, superhero flick X-Men, and legal thriller Runaway Jury. Bruce Davison has over 275 credits to his 50-plus year career. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Longtime Companion. He received nominations for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series for Touched by an Angel, and a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Directing in a Children's Special for Off Season. Willard also features Sandra Locke, Ernest Borgnine, Elsa Lanchester, Michael Dante, Jody Gilbert, William Hansen, and a bunch of rats. This is something to look out for. The filming location for the Styles house is the Higgins-Verbeek-Hirsch Mansion, which was also used in Witchboard, Waxwork, and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So let's jump into it. Willard Styles is a social outcast who lives with his ailing, overbearing mother in a house that's falling apart since the death of his father. When he returns from work, his mother throws him a surprise 27th birthday party, though the guests are all friends of hers. She invited his boss, Al Martin, a business partner of his father, who took over the factory after his passing. Al promised to keep Willard employed, but he's yet to receive a promotion or pay raise despite working late and on weekends, so he's short on cash. He's encouraged by his mother's friends to be more aggressive, speak up for himself, and asked to be vice president of the company. When he steps outside to the backyard for a breath of fresh air, he's surprised to find a rat by the unfilled pool. He tries to throw cake at the rat to deter him, but ends up enjoying its companionship. He attempts to confront Al Martin and demands a raise, but his boss has a counteroffer. He wants to buy the house, which needs many repairs and is too large for Willard and his mother, and in turn, he wouldn't need the extra money and could stay at his base salary. When Al throws a company party and doesn't invite Willard, he decides to take advantage with the help from his rat. Here's a quote without context. Willard is basically an extrovert, except it's all inside. Willard is not for the faint of heart, especially if you're not a fan of the four-legged vermin. But the true scares are few and far between. It's not a horror film in the modern sense. It has more in common with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Mummy than it does Halloween, Friday the 13th, or Saw. So if the latter is in your wheelhouse, you might find it tame. The performances drive the movie. Bruce Davison plays the socially awkward Willard very convincingly. His overall appearance, posture, all reflects that he's been bullied by others throughout his entire life. Ernest Borgnine as his boss Al Martin pushes all the right buttons as the antagonist, but he's not over the top. He was unpleasant enough where you want to see him get his comeuppance, but you're not cheering for his demise. This is an odd random thought. Even though it was released in 1971, the mother used a stair lift to scale up and down the steps of the house. I didn't realize they were around then. My first memory of those was in Gremlins, when Mrs. Deagle got launched out her front window. And then there were those commercials for Acorn stair lifts around that time. When were those invented? Alphonse! Alphonse! Look that up for me. The film picks up toward the second half, but it's never boring and doesn't drag before you get to the crux of the horror. Now for a little trivial trivia. The scenes that featured the rats took up to 30 takes to get them right. But it paid off. Its success at the box office inspired animal-themed horror films that followed in the early 70s. Willard was produced by Bing Crosby Productions. Yes, that Bing Crosby. And was their first theatrical feature as a company, and distributed by Cinerama Release Corporation. The cinematography was captured by Robert B. Hauser, whose filmography includes buddy comedy The Odd Couple, sports adventure Le Mans, western The Frisco Kid, and episodes of Combat, Peyton Place, and Macmillan and Wife. It was edited by Warren Lowe, who was nominated for 4 Academy Awards for Best Film Editing for The Letter, Come Back Little Sheba, The Rose Tattoo, and Gunfight at the OK Corral. The score was composed by Alex North, who wrote the music for gothic drama A Streetcar Named Desire, western Viva Zapata, historical drama Cleopatra, dark fantasy film Dragon Slayer, crime comedy Pritzi's Honor, and war dramedy Good Morning Vietnam. Over his career, he was nominated for 15 Academy Awards. The runtime is 1 hour 35 minutes. It earned $14.5 million at the box office, making it the 11th highest-grossing film of the year, and garnered over $9 million in rentals. It spawned a sequel, Ben, in 1972, whose soundtrack featured the song, Ben, with music by Walter Scarfe and lyrics by Don Black. It was performed by Lee Montgomery in the film and Michael Jackson over the end credits. A remake starring Crispin Glover was released in 2003. On the Ski Index, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Take off a star if you're not a fan of those critters. If you've seen Willard and have opinions on the movie, let me know what you think using the hashtag MattWatchThat. Moving right along, each episode, I'm gonna post clips that I think people should watch. It could be movie trailers, music videos, interviews, or something completely random. Search for my YouTube page and there'll be a playlist called Matt Watch That Playback. It's rare that a remake is better than the original, but in the case of John Carpenter's The Thing, it's a masterpiece of filmmaking, though you wouldn't have known that in 1982. Upon its release, it received negative reviews, but has since become a cult classic, lauded for its innovative special effects designed by Rob Bottin. It was based on the 1938 novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr., and a remake of the Christian Nibby Howard Hawks directed The Thing from Another World from 1951. But what I was most impressed by was the haunting score. For the longest time, I assumed that it was composed by John Carpenter, and was surprised to find out that it was done by Ennio Morricone. Unsure of what the director was looking for, Ennio created an electronic score that resembled Carpenter's previous work, a lush orchestral score, and a mix that combined the two. It's not a shock that the synth-based score won out. The music was a departure for Ennio Morricone. It's very minimalist. The pulsating bass line reminds me of the Intellivision video game Night Stalker. Hit me up if anyone knows that reference. He creates an atmospheric soundscape that adds to the mystery and suspense of The Thing. He was also expected to create the score without seeing the finished film, so he was working off descriptions by Carpenter, who would end up piecing together the music to fit the scenes. There were unused compositions that would later appear in The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino. Although he was known for his westerns accompaniment, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. His work spans multiple genres. Coming-of-age film Cinema Paradiso, comedy La Cage aux Folles, period drama Days of Heaven, action and adventure Red Sonja, thriller The Untouchables, and Vietnam drama Casualties of War. With 536 credits over a 7-decade career, he won 2 Academy Awards, 3 Grammys, 3 Golden Globes, and 6 BAFTAs. He created the scores for 70 award-winning films, and he sold 70 million records worldwide. I'm gonna select a couple of pieces from The Thing, and other notable works of Ennio Morricone. They're all available in the Matt Watch That playback playlist on YouTube. Check it out. Now it's time for the recommendation. Yes, that's the word recommendation with Matt in the middle. I'm going to end each podcast with my own recommendation of a movie or TV series. Today I'm talking about The Strangers. It tells a story of a young couple, James Hoyt and Kristen McKay, who visits his childhood summer home after attending a friend's wedding reception, and end up getting terrorized by 3 strangers in creepy masks. It stars Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler as the unfortunate couple. It also features Gemma Ward, Kip Weeks, Laura Margolis, and Glenn Howerton. It was written and directed by Brian Bertino, and shot entirely with handheld cameras or Steadicams, which I normally don't like, but it adds to the uneasy atmosphere and ominous mood. I don't consider it a scary movie per se, in that you're gonna audibly scream or jump in terror, but I had an uneasy feeling throughout the entirety of watching this film. It is tension-filled and plays on psychological and visceral fears of a break-in that is a relatable concept. It doesn't rely on jump scares or horror movie tropes, but the characters do fall prey into making bad decisions that most in this situation wouldn't do. I think it's forgivable for the amount of suspense that it creates. There was a lot of criticism about the movie when it first came out, because people wanted to know why this couple was being targeted, but that's the scary part about crime. I know we like to apply reason to things, but sometimes it happens for no apparent reason. A victim could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. In an odd bit of coincidence, Liv Tyler is the daughter of rock and roll frontman Steven Tyler, who was in another band prior to Aerosmith called The Strangers. The film has become a cult classic and spawned a bunch of sequels. The Strangers Pray at Night in 2018, and a trilogy of movies. The Strangers Chapter 1 was released earlier in 2024, to be followed by The Strangers Chapter 2 sometime in late 2024, and The Strangers Chapter 3 in 2025. That's all for this edition of Matt Watch That. Thanks for listening to me babble. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed or suggestions as to what movie or TV pilot I should see, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Head over to mattseroski.com for all the latest news and updates, and come back next time for the reviews, rants, and randomness. He directed seven or several. Either one, Matt. Pick a side. The score was composed by Alex North, who wrote the music for gothic drama A Streetcar. But then we have to bring it back to the classics. The Birds, directed by Albert. Dark fantasy film Dragon Slayer, crime comedy Prizzi's Honor, and war drama Good Morning America. That's not what it is. When I was a kid, I remember there was a book series called Binocular. Yeah.